dear everyone. Welcome back again to our discussion table hosted by Influence Advisory with my guest, Nina Seredai. Nina is the owner of Nine Space Design in Dubai, and she focuses on delivering brand management and brand management strategies to high-end clients in Dubai and UAE and also Saudi Arabia right now. So welcome again, Nina. How are you? How are you doing?
Thank you, Marilyn. All great. Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to our discussion. I find them super insightful. You get a lot of, knowledge refreshed and also interesting things, questions being answered. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you for your participation because I think it is to my work field and to my knowledge in delivering program management strategies. I think it's very good to have this integrated with our thinking, brand management. I would call it company strategy. It has a subset from that, but that is probably just too too broad, and that's why I love to just take it to a more a tangible proposition that people understand the awareness that we bring to the table with this discussion, understanding it from different point of views. But the main thinking here is like, what is the leadership and what is the comprehensive overview? How do you implement this within your organization? So I really love these discussions because that is how do I approach my management strategy sessions with all my customers from large corporates to entrepreneurs. This is what they need to know. How do you drive your company from delivering a product and service, being financially healthy, so being stay within a longer period in business, and then focusing on what is your long term positioning within this journey. And today's topic, I would love to just bring back to what is also my field of expertise of how risk management plays a very important role, to my opinion, from with brand management and brand management strategy. So, would look forward to the discussion. Just please just bring my audience back to what
Yeah.
is brand management and how do you think that risk management is important for them to understand in this discussion.
I think what you've mentioned that you called it company strategy, and I think I tend to say more now that it's not just a brand strategy; it's a company strategy. It's not a brand management. It's really being part of your whole organizational company structure and seeing how the brand, becomes the core at everything what you do, and how everything within your company is aligned to that. Brand is your reputation. If the word brand does not, didn't exist, the close word for that would be reputation. How do you create your company? How do you behave? What do you do in order to keep that thing growing? And so, I think calling it company strategy is it's the right approach, at least in my eyes. Brand management. I think we've discussed in the last 2 or 3 roundtables the importance of brand, the importance of managing it, the importance how it actually has the direct impact on your bottom line, how it helps you to create a culture within the company and retain your people, increase your human capital, how important even the basic things that keeping your finance together, do the proper financial planning and make sure that your company is healthy financially. So there's a lot of things that we've discussed, and yeah, I think brand management for me is something that is super strategic. It has to come from the top and it has to be developed inside the company. So once you know who you are and your it's based on your business plans and business strategy, then you go to your customers and connect with them in the right way. So I hope I didn't confuse you
No, I
with this.
just I love this. I love how you just position brand management, and I'm very interested into how from how I'm been working over years in the field of risk management, and I always see and found that taking things from a strategic risk and just categorizing things as a strategic risk. You mentioned already it's your reputation. If you would make the correlation for how do we perceive our marketing or our presentation to the world, actually, or our external clients, how is this being perceived as a reputational risk? There is no correlation as such. And I would love to bring that more to the table and to the attention that reputational risk is something that you cannot calculate this. So if you reserve capital on this, there will be a very extreme and large amount that you need to reserve capital on because it's part of your business. What happens, for example, we can take a very small example. I recently said for what happens if you're too late for an appointment, or what happens if you cannot deliver something. Those events are impacting your profitability. But the downside in this is how are you being perceived by your customer? And are they still willing to be loyal to you while they know that you cannot deliver? And those are the elements that you need to take into consideration when you think about what is your reputation, what is your strategic risk, and what are you willing to take, or what is your risk appetite that you're willing to take to integrate this. And to me, I think focusing on your brand and in brand management and the strategies around this, that should be a part of this. That should be an element that should be bring more to the attention and the
Yeah.
table and
Yeah.
in future discussions.
Yeah. And latest research and view by Oxford on the strategy of the company says that company now has to consider the complex environment that it lives in. So what it means by that is before we had market players and we were looking, at our customers, competitors, suppliers, investors. Nowadays, it's not enough to look just into your market players. We need to look into non-market players. We need to look at the whole complexity of the environment and then base our strategy based on that. And reputation, that's what we're building. We want to have a healthy reputation with everyone, your market players and non-market players. For example, Facebook, they can have a financial strength. They could be an amazing um, reputation for capabilities, let's say for providing a community, developing a community where people interact, great opportunities for advertisers. However, that whole scandal that is happening now, I think still um, maybe not to that extent, but started, I think, 2018 or something, with the data protection, right? So that has nothing to do with their capabilities, but it's something with what they own. So how do you mitigate those risks? What do you do? So just knowing this example, you understand that it's not anymore just my company is here and this is my world I exist in. You have to look much, bigger picture, much bigger picture. And sometimes it's with the technology companies has to do a lot now with the governments, with the legislations, with the campaigners, with the media, with people who are outside your customer circle and so on. Very complex world we're living in. So and that has all direct implication on your bottom line, on your money, on your financials. So what do you do with that? I think we really have to be prepared and manage your risks.
Yes, you powerful how you mentioned it because I would also love to bring it back to those elements. There are elements that we discussed. We also discussed it in previous discussion tables, where the elements that you need to take into consideration from a strategic point of view is that the marketplaces are changing. You have more a hybrid version of online and offline. So how are you being perceived? That is one
Yeah,
element in this. The other element is from a privacy perspective, data protection or your safeguard position. How do you position yourself in this? In my 5 pillars to profit, I also cater the fourth pillar on this because I find it very important that being having your financial management and your risk management integrated means that you need to take care of certain elements, that you have escape routes or escalating infrastructures that caters to protect environment and also this that does protect your reputation, does protect your strategic risk, and also your financial risk. So just it protects your capital in this. And the third
Yeah.
element that you also discussed in this is just it is much more than only bringing something to the market. It's just the whole positioning within the journey. It's the whole thinking of leadership and processes and everything around it. So being part of a value chain that needs to be very straight through, that you can immediately deliver what you say. That is just adding up to all the risk, and the questions are obviously how to mitigate those risks. Now, while a thorough risk analysis could help with this, but um, it will never comprehend everything. So you just really need to focus on the main elements that can help you, or that impact your profitability, and but also has a very negative effect on how you're being approached, for example. I think that lots of high-end brands are struggling with this. And then also just we have the third element that I discussed here, just how do you bring things to the market? An element in this, for example, if you how do you deal with all the replica or all the different competitors, um, not from a traditional point of view, but just really replicating or duplicating your products as such. How do you take that into consideration? Because also there are losses within that you need to
Yeah.
integrate and
Yeah. I think there's so many things here. The first one is overall, when we put the strategy together, understanding the scenarios, how the world might look like in the future is important. So having those different scenarios, and I'm not saying, best case scenario, worst case scenario, just different scenarios of what could happen. They don't, plausible scenarios. So how that understanding where the world is going, with the technology revolution now is a lot of changes and what might happen. So having those scenarios helps you also to certain level be prepared for different risks. I think, right? So that's first thing when you prepare, when you work on your strategy, put the plausible scenarios and see what the risks are. I mean, when it comes to the competitors and replicas and so on, there, first of all, how do you compete? Yeah. How do you protect yourself from competitors? If you compete on the physical, so let's say functional or physical level, i.e., I have a beautiful laptop, it's so good, it has so many functions and it closes well and looks fine. There will be always someone who will do it much better than you. It depends on how much money, right? They change one button, they make it pink, and yeah, I'm sorry to use that such examples, but if you compete on physical level, functional level, there will be somebody always better. But if you compete on the emotional level, then it's a different case. And competing on emotional level is actually creating your brand, is creating that whole value, that connection with your customers. And we're not talking here just the customers, actually. It's connecting with all your stakeholders on the emotional level. It requires work, and that goes back to everything that we've discussed previously. Replicas is something that we know a lot of luxury brands are happy about. They actually don't remove them from the market in certain instances, but it's the way for them to advertise and make people who cannot afford it now to dream. So it is a marketing strategy to a certain extent also. So yes, how do you protect yourself from competitors? By creating a strong brand. How do you create a strong brand? Um, it's it's a work, it's a process, it's a science, it's a lot of commitment from all the departments and from the leadership, and it's an investment. Number one, also, it's not just I'd like to do it. It's an investment. So financial planning is important in this. It's not enough anymore, like I said, to compete only even on providing a promise or emotional benefit to the customers. It's not enough just to be slightly different from competitors. Nowadays, you need to be radically different. So radical differentiator, in order to sustain your growth and sustain your competitive position, is something that is required. So it's a topic on its own. So risks are everywhere. Let's be prepared.
That is true. Risk are just, I really find it very important, and just you see that there people don't see the value of risk management. And obviously, it's like I said, you cannot take everything out of it, but just focusing on the main elements that can really impact your capital, meaning your profitability, meaning your cash flow, how to reinvest that again into the infrastructure so that you can build and scale up. Those are the elements that you need to really consider carefully from a perspective from how do I position myself and does this help me in my long-term strategy? Um, it just just coming back to a reputational risk and just coming back to all the luxury brands or all the I just really and I hopefully you can help me in this because you worked also for a very for example in hospitality. How do they took their elements of mitigating risk and just developing that within their brand management strategies. Can you just elaborate a little bit more on that?
I think, first of all, having a long-term plan is a must. So it's not that I think by putting together the plan, long-term plan, a proper business strategy is something that helps to predict certain risks. Of course, there are several, there are incidents and accidents happen on the way. How you deal with those problems, something happens, someone died on the property of hospitality property. How do you deal with that? That's another thing also. Okay, they have a procedures, protocols, and so on. But in terms of your communication, what do you do with that? So have those risks thought through, for example. So having the plan, going back, having a long-term plan is the first step. Having different scenarios of what could happen in the near future is another way of looking at also, and being able to see that future. So here's your company, you go back to the future and you look at the company from the future. That helps also to mitigate certain risks, or at least discuss certain risks and see how you can deal with them if they happen, if something happens. The other thing is a lot of things coming also from internally, right? So having a toxic culture, for example, toxic company brings a lot of risks. And a lot of companies, especially in hospitality, because it's a service based and it's people's behavior and their attitude makes a big difference. So it's quite difficult for them to, not quite difficult, they know the formula, but it's an essential thing that they take into consideration, that people are in the center of their business. They're the main assets of their business also, especially when we're talking about hospitality brands that don't own the assets. For example, Four Seasons, it's all based on people operations and their distribution system. So in terms of the things, like if we talk in terms of the products, then of course having a legal protection, all these trademarks and copyrights and having legally protected is important. They do that. Can you protect yourself 100%? No, of course no. Therefore, you have to have those plans in place, contingency and risk management plans and great communication. Now, I think one of the important things is to have a very strong PR. So having one of the strongest PR within your internal team is important. We see what's happening in the world, and now those who have the strongest PR team are winning these days. So you could be super strategically smart and have a lot of money, but if you don't have the right PR to deal, to on your team, then it's a problem. So it's 100 different ways, but you need to be prepared. And in most of the cases, that's what helps.
Yes, PR is, as you mentioned, to me, PR is just really focusing on mitigating all your reputational risk in this, and also
Yeah,
managing the reputational risk if it does occur. How can we just really do more crisis management to soften and also smoothen the processes in this? So you mentioned, you touched upon certain elements, and I think it's very important to focus on that, because you have financial risk, obviously, that you can being sued or at all from a legal point of view, but you also have the operational risk, and those are the elements that if you're dealing with lots of human capital on your balance sheet, and especially from a hospitality point of view, how do you manage those operational risk? And obviously, you have your processes and you have your procedures to do that. But taking elements out or from illness or sickness, what are your contingency plans? Yeah, your plan B, just to say it very bluntly, this. Uh, People don't really think about it. You will see it, for example, more applicable within programs or program management or project management, but not in daily um, operation. And that is the focus, because if you don't, for example, just to have an example, I stayed in a very luxurious hotel after or during COVID, and obviously they said that they took lots um, of precautions. But to me, taking the precautions took away the meaning and the value of all the luxury and all the perceptions that I have that need to be delivered with the service that I are are
yeah,
used of being delivered. So that was, to me it was a very thin line. Or how do you balance this? Because it from my point of view, I
yeah,
understood it from from the COVID perspective, or the pandemic that we were in. But on the other hand, at some point, I was fed up with saying that this cannot be that you're asking things. There could be a different way of thinking, a different approach to still deliver the service. And to me, if you don't deliver the service as as people are used to, it's your biggest capital risk or financial risk that you're uh, having on your capital. People are not aware about that, are not so much aware about it. They thought that they could get away with this during this period. But I think it has this ripple effect over a longer course of period, that people think that they can get away with this um, just because they're an established brand. What is your take on this?
so I think first thing, if people think they can get away with it, then it means there's not a good culture in the company. They shouldn't be thinking that they want to get away with something. They need to be thinking what we could do to deliver the best to our customers. Yeah. So it's number one. First thing, you fire everyone who thinks that they can get away from with it. So that's the number. Uh, so the whole idea with the COVID and precautions, yeah, it's very disturbing. It's a challenge. It's a challenge, and I think it's only by trial and errors is something that we can achieve that service level that would satisfy. It has a lot to do also. That whole COVID situation is not just operational struggle. It's a lot of emotional struggle that people go through. Some, these people like masks, these people don't like masks, these are against vaccine, this is for vaccine. So it's so many personal opinions that are based on emotions and subjective subjective opinions again that present. That it's very hard for the companies to find the right balance, and I understand them and I feel sorry for them. I know how difficult it is to put the whole customer experience together for the hotel, but then I go to the hotel and I complain myself all the time. So it is a struggle. You have to know that you need to always look at your customer experience, put your customer journey maps together, evaluate them, test them, do different, implement metrics, use your data, all the buzzwords that exist now. Yeah, but you have to do it, and it has to be based on a very healthy brand culture of the company. People have to be willing especially when it comes to the hospitality. It's not just based on the pure training, it's also intuition that it works, that plays an important role. So I it's a process, trial and error, understanding what you're doing, understanding your customer very well, very well. Every single thing, what they do, how they live their life, what their needs are, what they're paid, how you can deliver it at better than your competitors, knowing what your competitors are doing also. So a lot of things. So I guess it's a process. You build it all the time. You can never say that, okay, I've achieved the maximum. It's a never-ending story.
Yes, I can imagine. I do see that, yeah, the evaluations and the continuous process, and bringing this back to the operations, and that is just something that should be more integrated, and not just something that is just only um, the audit responsibility, but it should be more integrated within and incorporated within your people and your culture. And so it just comes back just all about what is the position, and how do we train, and how do we put our people over there, and how do we protect our people from a certain point of view, the balance between that, but still deliver what we um, promise to deliver in this. But coming, I started this discussion because I just wanted to bring this alignment between what happens if you don't take your brand or your identity, um, if you just take it lightly, let's put it like that, and if you're and are you willing to take this? What is the risk appetite? What is the capital that you're willing to lose if your reputational risk is in danger? That is what I want. That is what I wanted to discuss, and I just want to just have your final thought in this. How do you see this alignment?
First of all, I see reputation as two things. There is reputation for capabilities, and there is reputation for character. Yeah, so the reputation, and this is the Oxford view on the strategy, recent, I think it's recent research they've done. So there is one reputation for capabilities, that you do what you're supposed to do at very best, that you're capable of doing it, you deliver what you promise. And there is a reputation for characters, overall your role in society, overall what you stand for, those moral grounds that you are, the ethics that you put out there in the world, right? That's what you stand for above your capabilities. So understanding of both from the leadership perspective, and then making sure all that is implemented at the level, even at the the cleaning people level, is essential. Building that reputation isn't it the most valuable asset? Probably, right? Your reputation. So bringing that to that trainings, corporate culture, brand building, living, or constantly being next to your customer and understanding what they're doing, looking into the environment which is bigger than you, talking to your other stakeholders, talking to the government in certain instances when you need it, trying to have a proper communication plans with all your stakeholders. So it's a complex program that if you want to be at your best, then you need to implement and stay on track and do it. So that's my final thoughts on it. Reputation, brand is your reputation. Brand is that feeling that people get when they think about your company. And in order for you to give that feeling to them, you need to know A, what that feeling is, and B, you need to align all your company, aligned to that thing, which is brand, aligned to that emotion that you want customers to feel. So, and that includes financials also. It has to be based strongly on your financial capabilities, on what you want to achieve also in the future, and how you're going to achieve that. So I hope I've answered it like this to your question.
I love this. I really love your answer in this because it just brought out the elements that I wanted to hear most. Right, how you brought it, saying, well, you have elements that define your brand, that define your reputation. You can just also take that, but the elements here and those that is the red line that we discussed all over our previous discussion tables. That is just how do we approach this, and how do we approach this? That is creating the awareness that it should be taken from a leadership position, um, incorporated within everything that you do, with everything that you think and breathe and act upon and position yourself within the market. That has the impact on how you create your environment. And from a financial point of view, we had a previous discussion about that. But from a financial point of view, the focus is how do you stay healthy so that you can remain longer and sustain
Exactly.
longer within the business. And the
Exactly.
element and adding the element of risk management in this is just the total overview, the comprehensive overview of how do we be um, um, how do we are aware of the risk, the appetite that we're willing to take, that people do not feel the things that we would like to present to the world.
Exactly. Absolutely agree with you. And also, are you prepared or you're just reacting to things? That's another thing. So a lot of people prefer to focus on short-term gains and then just react to whatever happens. So that's the way also. Is that risky for me? For my way of running the business is too risky. So or you look in the long term and prepare yourself for different scenarios and you try to adapt and predict and be ready. So that's another thing also. And I think that financial element is crucial in both scenarios.
Yes. Beautiful. I think we just captured lots of elements for people to think about, and how do you need to bring those elements into consideration. I started these discussion tables from a brand management perspective and just focusing on how is the market and how are the economies are developing. How does it impact your finance, and how is risk management a part of this to protect yourself in this and just to continue. But our main focus in this is still how do you stay sustainable and successful within a longer period in time. So we're here to bring you this message. We're here to bring you all these information, and just follow us, follow Nina on
Thank
her
you.
website and on Instagram. And if you need more information, you can also contact us on our website. So thank you for your time, Nina,
Thank
in
you
this.
so much. Thank you, Maya. Thank you.